So then I went home and I did a bunch of homework and research and discovered this model called the Peer Mentorship Exchange. And I pioneered for an entire year, volunteered my time off the side of my desk and put 3 pods of 5 to 7 people, business owners, through this and just sort of surveyed them, what's working, what's not working, and built a model called the Peer Mentorship Exchange. Last year I launched it for the first time and charged each business around $450 to be a part of it. And I do zero marketing. The marketing does it itself. You know, people talk about the experience and what they get out of it, and that is how people find me. So it's a definite space that's been gaining traction. People are really excited about it. And as I get more into it, I've been thinking, what's next, and how can I fill that space more? It's a bit of a blue ocean that people don't know really exists. So, here's a testimonial from one of my Peer Mentorship Exchange members, and I'll just let you read it. So then from there, I said, what's next? And went to this idea of the Leverage Lab. And that's what I pitched at the first Changecamp. And it's really the whole idea of bringing values-led businesses together to solve complex problems. A lot of them have issues that are greater than themselves and they can't solve on their own. 98% of businesses here in Vancouver are comprised of small to medium-sized businesses. So there's a lot of us walking around in the city who are working at home alone, who are struggling with things, and other people might be struggling with the similar problems. But I think that there's the ability to bring people together and have leverage in solving, getting really clear on what those problems are, bringing the groups together on the premise that they have a similar problem, and facilitating a strategic dialogue around how to solve these problems together. So I've developed the Leverage Lab with the experience of doing the Peer Mentorship Exchange. And this is kind of the format. The group will meet once every 2 months for a total of 6 times a year. So they're committed for the full year to figure it out. And that allows us to have the space and the time to really work diligently to get to the heart of what the real problem is. Not just solving. I would hate to see a group solve the wrong problem because we did it in one day because that's all the time we had. So I find that this space and this time is necessary to really work through solving the right problems. It consists of a minimum of 7 business owners and a maximum of 12. I feel like to get real consensus and to get movement, you've got to keep the group small. So I wouldn't want to see them get any bigger than 12. And the research shows that anything smaller than 7 is a critical mass. Like you wouldn't be able to really make a big movement with anything less than 7. So pods will be carefully and strategically selected to facilitate harmonious partnerships. Each member commits to participate for a minimum of 1 year. So they commit up front, they sign up. In a survey that I did after I facilitated one of these, businesses said that they were willing to pay money. So there is a willingness for businesses to participate in this, for them to pay for some of it. And then the process will be high level and well organized to facilitate in order to get the most out of their time. So I have a master's degree in strategic leadership towards sustainability. I took the program in Sweden and it taught me a lot about how to facilitate, but also how to have a discussion around sustainability and how to operationalize sustainability in businesses. So my background has been really geared towards working with businesses to help them tackle their problems. And this is just sort of turning it in a 10 degree and helping businesses work together to solve their problems. And about 3 months ago, I held the first Leverage Lab. I just thought, let's just throw this out here and see what happens. So I pulled together, you might recognize some of these people. We've got Sarah White from Fairwear, you might have heard of Fairwear, Rob from Novex Couriers, Mickey McLeod, who runs Salt Spring Coffee, myself, a trusted colleague named John Izzo, and Matheson McRae from Frogbox. So I basically took a group of businesses who are pioneering and doing great things in Vancouver, and I put them in a room together, and I said, hey, what's possible together? What are you all struggling with, and what's possible? And that's kind of where this idea sort of spun out of. And here's some of the things that they said about it. They said that the Leverage Lab, they found to be a safe environment to talk with like-minded folks about similar values and challenges. So that's the same thing I was seeing with the peer mentorship exchange, is that they really wanted mentorship to share challenges, opportunities with. And then the second person said that the idea of being brought together in a group of other practitioners and establish common goals and values was helpful. And from that we began to plan action steps that will benefit everyone. So again, it's sort of a new space, an idea of bringing people together. So the process is really starting with a common goal, common challenge, and then moving into what exists in terms of opportunities. What would the project look like, and how do we propose to move forward together, with the outcome at the end of the year being a single project or a single outcome solution to the problem. Do you guys have questions that you have up your hand? Yes.
So when business owners in a group are meeting, is the whole concept that every business owner would say propose one problem that they're dealing with, and then each member would see how they would support that or facilitate that in solving them together, so that would go around the table basically?
I'm hoping to get people, find out what their problems are beforehand.
Yeah,
and
then, that's what I mean, where they would know the problem, they would present that problem. So I'm saying, do they bring one problem to the table and everyone there would help them find a solution or support them?
Well, what I'm thinking is that I do a mass survey, and I'll get there to figure out what the problems are, and then group them based on their problems. So once they all get in the room, they're all trying to solve the same problem. Then we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But I'd love your feedback on that. So I'm not going to get into the details too much because I really want to tap your brain around some of the questions. So what do you guys, before we dive down into sort of some of the thinking that I've had behind this, I'd love to know, what do you think are some of the biggest complex problems that you could see the Leverage Lab having impact on? What? Transportation? Anybody else with some common problems that business owners might have? Environmental health. Can you say more about that?
So what is that? NYU has a project that does environmental health leadership, and they do art, like public art, that is also good for the environment. So they'll have like carbon chimneys, for instance, that they put on the side of buildings, and they use black chimneys to work as a chimney, so it like sucks all the hot air out, and they trap carbon, like black carbon that is normally in the air, in these chimneys, and then create pencils out of them.
Wow.
That's enough.
Do you know how they did that? How they came up about doing that?
No, but I know who is in charge of that program. Numbers. They do other stuff like they create these plant systems around storm drains that are normally protected for like only emergency vehicles. So those plants filter the water.
What they will need to understand.
Business is cool, but that's a great example of how a group brought together could really tackle.
Right, and it also works towards social cohesion, because then people talk about those projects, passively amongst themselves. They go, oh, that's weird, and then they talk to strangers about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Can anyone else think of an example of where a group might be brought together to solve some problems?
I've been in the group working on carbon reduction.
Yeah.
So, all the companies want to have a low carbon footprint or even be carbon neutral, moving towards that.
Yeah.
So, the whole group together does charting their footprint and sharing about all the details of getting that information, and then what strategies then as a group
Yeah.
could be done to move towards carbon neutral.
Right.
Yeah, so it's very, and again, it's businesses who are fully committed to that. You know, some of them have transportation issues. It leans into, you know, solid waste issues, which
Yeah.
is a big issue related to carbon footprint as well. And just simple things like okay, how do you get the heat to your buildings? How do you get the electrical aspects? And you know, get organizations like BC Hydro involved because they're very interested, so they come and do a presentation on how they could reduce their electrical footprint.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then it's very scientific oriented. They have the Pembina Institute involved in helping them do their carbon footprints, and they had special, like one company, part of their buildings that burned out. So how do you do the carbon footprint for a building that's burned out? You know, so we had other resources to draw on to get information about how to do the calculations and things.
Wow.
Yeah.
And who's convening that? Who's bringing the people together?
Just trying to remember the name. It's been like 3 years now, so I can't remember.
It's okay.
Yeah, I can't remember. But the group exists. They started with, I was the representative for Urban Impact Recycling.
Okay.
There were people that go around the back lanes and pick up
Yeah.
the cardboard and all that sort of stuff. But I think, you know, like Salt Spring Coffee was being part of that group at one time.
Oh, okay.
And Spud, the grocery delivery people, and there were courier companies as well around the table. So a very, very broad spectrum of businesses.
Neat.
Yeah.
So that's an example of a template, and of course, it would be good, like, to make this work, like other examples like that. What have other people tried? What works in that kind of an environment and an organization? You know, what companies are still thriving under that,
Yeah.
and what parts don't work, so we're not duplicating troubles
Yeah.
and building on other successes of a similar nature.
Turning it over to you guys, what do you think about this concept? Do you feel like there's a need for it? How would you frame it best to get traction?
I think that related to that is the performance matrix. There's no consistency on how these things are measured. It will be good if we have something like that that can be measured across different businesses.
Yes.
Then there'll be comparability, then it's consistent.
Yeah.
Does that help with the certified B corporations? They've got, a certain set of criteria. You don't necessarily have to meet the goals that they have set out, but you measure your company on various metrics, and it's consistent across all businesses.
Yeah, I think that touches on.
I believe that's
Yep.
sort of something.
Yep, it's a certification, and I'll skip ahead a couple slides here for a second. So
Yeah, benefit corporations.
And they
It's the
just
same as, like, I sit on the board for A Better Life, which is a charity that just
You have to keep track of your own performance and work towards
and we did the launch event
improving on them.
2 weeks ago.
To be a certified B corporation, you don't have to actually meet any targets. You have to be
The event was helped out
you have to reach a certain score.
kitchens.
Yeah, and it's a thing that you pay money for, and it's also like a certification that you get on your packaging or whatever it is that you
Along those
are using to promote yourself.
Salt Spring Island, which you mentioned before, they are.
People who are.
Yeah, self copy. Yeah. So, and I thought about using theirs because they use the same principles as the natural step, which is what my training is in. I thought about using that, but then it would require everybody who was participating to take this, to go through the B Corp certification, and I thought it'd be easier to have them do something a little bit, something similar, but something with less rigor. So what I did is I created a survey that puts people into 5 groups. And really this is trying to answer the question of how do you figure out who to put in what pods? Like, we want to know what problems they're trying to solve or what solutions they've come up with and have critical mass come around that. But also, like, how do I know it's just not my subjective idea of you, and you, let's get in a room together. If this is going to be a model that's scalable, so I can take to different places, we need to have some rigor around how we select who gets to be in what group.
Sorry to interrupt us. You have 5 minutes left in this first round, and I'll be switching it.
Okay, that's fine.
So I had a question. So what is the topic angle of reaching out to businesses?
Well, that's where I need your help and ideas. So I've created a self-assessment. So it's 50 questions, and it puts businesses into one of these 5 categories. So either they're purpose passion, which is obviously the highest level that you can be in. They're the innovators, the ones, the Silkscreen coffees that are ahead of the curve. They're always doing the things first. There's integrated strategies. Those are the early adopters. They're a little bit shy, but they're definitely ahead of the curve. The early majority, beyond compliance, those are the people who are like, doing less bad on top of it and just sort of doing what they can to maintain and be in the early majority. And then there's the late majority. Those are like, when the government says you got to do this, they'll do it. They'll make sure that gets done. And then there's the laggers, and those are the ones who just like aren't with it. And as we switch and evolve into the new economy, they're not gonna make it. So I think that this self-assessment is 50 questions. I don't have any ideas on how to administer it. My main purpose is to get, what I would love is to get everybody, my BHAG is to get every values-led business in Vancouver to fill it out so that I have an understanding of where businesses are in Vancouver, and that might inform me and be like, whoa, okay, everybody is in compliance mode, and there's a few of them in purpose passion. Let's pull those groups, let's pull the purpose passion, those few who are up there together and figure out how they can teach the others how they got where they're going. I think that the survey, the results from it will help inform me. So I'm in conversations with Van City about getting it out to their members. I'm also in conversations with Loco BC, if you guys are familiar with that, about getting it out to their members. I thought about making it often free surveys, believe it or not. People don't fill them out because they're free. That if I don't put a value to it, they don't see value in it. So I'm wondering if you guys have any idea on how I might get masses behind this survey.
I was thinking, one for 50 question survey, just the fact that it's 50 questions is kind of, it just seems like a lot, but then it may not be.
It's a self.
Yeah, that's just like, so, yeah, have you ever considered doing like, say, like a meetup or another event, offer for events, which is basically calling entrepreneur businesses, private businesses, home-based businesses, owners to come and be part of an event that's all about connecting, calling it, I don't know, the connector event, or private business connector event. And basically having a separate event, which is all about inviting companies to come down and share maybe like the top 5 or top 10 latest innovative startup companies for 2012 or 2013, just as a subject. And that's really just really using it as a book to bring in other companies. That's the whole purpose of it, is just to hook people.
That's a great idea.
And once they come in and they're taking a look at the 2012, 2013 top 5 startup companies that are doing fairly well, and to really kind of introduce them to other private companies, and maybe divide into that theme of talking about city marketing or the top 3 things that have inspired startup businesses and what the common denominator between those 5 businesses is, and using that common denominator as the
That's a great idea.
other things to come in. And basically when you have them in the room, then say, okay, this is what we have. We have this leverage lab idea, which is going to be kind of the middle ending of the whole presentation, and get everyone in the room to take that survey and just collect that information and then basically pitch
Tell the feeds coming afterwards, can fill the survey.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I don't know, it's just
I think it's also framing, like I keep calling it a survey, but it's really a self-assessment. And I think if I frame it as a self-assessment, so as a business owner, you get to figure out where you are on the scale in terms of where the changing economy is and where you're going to be. So it's like, if I say it's a survey, then it's like, I need you to give me information so that I can know. Whereas if it's a self-assessment, it's like, I'm giving you this so you can get this information and figure out where you're going to be in the new economy. So I think framing, as I hear you talking, I'm like, I need to not call it a survey. I need to call it a self-assessment.
Yeah, survey sounds like I'd probably like one, yeah.
Is it about the person themselves personally, or is it about the business?
It's other business. But most of them, again, 98% of businesses in Vancouver are 5 and under employees. So they're all SMEs, so targeting that audience.
Is there a way to narrow it down to 20
But I
questions?
totally agree with that point.
I tried to make it smaller, but it's hard.
Hello, we're just at 7 o'clock now, so just as a time to do a quick check, this is a time to wrap up your first session, and you can either keep going in this session or move to a different group. So it's up to you how you want to. It's up to you want to keep going in more depth in the session you're currently in, or switch gears to your next one.
It's tricky because it needs to have rigor. And because I have sort of the background in what sustainability is and knowing, like I don't want to bare bones it. I feel like 50's, I shaved off, like I had 100 and something. And so I shaved it and tried to, but like if I'm going to use this as a premise to figure out what groups to have and they're going to be there for an entire year, then I really need it to be, you know, rigorous enough that I know these people are actually in these categories.
I'm just thinking like,